really excited about this exhibit that's currently on 20 in 2020 at Barbara Cray Projects in Port Clyde, Maine. I hope you'll have a chance to stop by as well, but I thought it would be nice to do a walkthrough because some people are still in quarantine. Many of these paintings actually were painted while I was in quarantine, and they have this sort of real vibrancy and sense of spirit to them. This painting is called Channeled Light, and it was on exhibit at the Hancock Shaker Museum, a show that I just finished last November. The Shaker Museum commissions well-known contemporary artists to come and interact with the Shaker ethos and the space, so I was really fortunate to spend a lot of time looking and painting. And this is it's a washroom, and I love that it was a woman's workplace. Right now we have also on exhibit Mother-Daughter, works from my mother, who was head of the design department at Pratt Art Institute and an incredible painter, and some of my works. So this is very poignant for me, and I have another painting, Spindles, which I did at Hancock Shaker because it reminded me of my mother's textile designs that she had done. So this is in the same spot that the loom area, the sewing area was. I love the light on this, the way it came in, and it was very cool. The Boston Globe art critic compared the light in this to Vermeer. This huge commission for Mass Mocha for their new Building 6, which just opened, considered the largest watercolor in the world. So doing something like this at this size, it's 60 inches, and it's really hard to do a watercolor of this size because when you start there, it dries by the time you get over here, and you're always comparing, going back and forth. So Mass Mocha really prepared me to do something like this and to continue to work at that size. The Mass Mocha painting is on long-term exhibition, so if you have a chance, please stop by and see it. It's in the proud Building 6. I've been painting Maine for probably 40 plus years, and I like to go out on site, so a lot of these are from places that I know really well. I'll go out, get up early in the morning, catch a ride with a lobster fisherman, and go paint on an island. So it's really, it's not just pictures of a time of summer spent, but it's a really deep look, a deep dive into the working waterfront, the life in Maine, and the color and light, because during the summers it's just so rich. This painting is called Autograph. Again, it's an interior scene. And I call it Autograph because the fisherman always signs his number, and that's his autograph on the buoys. And as with a lot of the places that I paint, I'm very fortunate to be able to go in and look around and try and find painting ideas where a lot of people aren't able to go. I've been interested in architecture, which actually was an example of the Mass Mocha piece. But I've also been very interested in space, not only space and light, but space from a larger perspective. And I was fortunate to be commissioned 4 times by NASA. I had 2 paintings on exhibit at the Kennedy Space Center. And I painted the fastest aircraft in the world, the X-43. So to paint the largest watercolor in the world, and also currently to have painted the fastest aircraft in the world, is quite a feat, and something that I'm excited about and proud of, because it always pushes you in new directions and makes you look and think. I'm fortunate to have my paintings in collections around the world, not only presidential collections, but also with people like Tom Hanks and Orlando Bloom. And I work closely with Arts and Embassy, so I currently have a number of paintings at the U.S. Embassy. This painting's Pathways, it's the invitation image for this show for 2020. And it's called 2020 because this is our 20th season at the gallery, at the space, the Barbara Cray Project space, which is a really interesting building. It served as the old Village Inn, and C. Wyeth used to come here for lunch, and it has such a connection with the community, which is something that's really important to me. People have been married here, people have been born here. It really has a sense of history. And Pathways is part of my Nocturne series. A lot of these are watercolors. There is a series of oil paintings, but to get this, to do these washes with watercolors is really tough, and I think that's where the almost 50 years of watercolor painting comes in, because you really have the technique mastered, and then you're working really from your spirit. It's as special as I always paint places that are important to me or I have a connection with, and I know a number of the people whose books those are. The fishermen. This is very different. This is Acadia National Park in the fall, and watercolor is really tough, and particularly to paint fall colors, but there are all these little details, and again, this is so much brushwork that goes into it, but it was just so majestic and so beautiful when you're on top looking out, that's really what I wanted to paint. And so you've got these really light washes in here, and then these very dense colors. So I'm noted for my colors, so I really try and push the colors as far as they can go. And now I go up with my backpack and my paints and set out it's in the tradition of American landscape painting. I'm actually a female working in a very traditionally male-oriented, go out and paint on site in American history. This painting is called Social Distancing, and I painted it in quarantine. It has a special meaning for me because it was really difficult to get supplies, and I wasn't able to get my paper, and I really wanted to do a large painting. So what I had to do was take a drawing that I had started a long time ago and never finished, and I erased it. But because the watercolor paper is somewhat flat, if you erase, you damage the paper surface. So I had a dory in here, and you can see the outlines of the dory. And the challenge with this painting was basically to paint this painting over the ghost of the dory that was underneath. And to me, the two boats represented so much during that time, and actually during this time of the pandemic. So I called it Social Distancing, kind of together but still apart. I'm really excited about a mother-daughter exhibit that we have. It's mother-daughter, two generations. I've always wanted to do something with my mother's work, and here are some of the paintings that are in it. I love that she had done this when she was in her 20s. She had taken a trip to Europe, I think they were in Italy, and so here she is, this is my mother, but out painting with some of her art students and art teachers. She was head of the design department at Pratt Art Institute for 10 years, so she did a lot of painting. Obviously she always painted on site, and she had her own design firm, Peggy Chavert Designs, and her designs were all over the world. I actually remember babysitting when I was little, and my mom dropped me off, and I walked into someone's living room outside New York City where I grew up, and she nonchalantly said, "Those are my fabric designs." I thought that was really cool. This is an example of one of her fabric designs, which really are timeless, and she just had an amazing eye and amazing hand, and was really fortunate to grow up in a home with a large studio and a mother who was so creative. This exhibit, because father-son are often and more commonplace than mother-daughter. There are very few mother-daughter exhibits, so to be able to have this exhibit with such a gifted and wonderful painter who was so well respected for the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage is kind of cool. And then just a little aside it's the 200th anniversary of the state of Maine, and my mother's, so mine as well, family were the first settlers of the mid-coast of Maine, and a lot of the harbors and points are named after them. So not only is this a timely exhibit for the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, but we have a strong connection to Maine, where this show is right now.